My friends, it looks like Niantic are about to make a really dumb decision to do with Pokemon Go, and I want to talk about why it's so impactful, why they are so against the way that their player base actually wants to play their game, and also how Niantic themselves, just in case you're watching, could realistically fix it and make it better without having to impact how other people want to play. And I know that sounds very vague, so let's get into the details. The fact is that there was a text update to a certain item in Pokemon Go recently, actually in the last 24 hours of recording, and it was reported on by Joe Merrick, who is the webmaster of Cerebi.net. So if we look at this screenshot here from Joe, you can see it says remote raid pass. Pass to join a raid battle remotely, you can join 0 raids a day. So what this looks like, and what was actually data mined by Pokeminers a while ago, is that Niantic look like they are going to be limiting the amount of remote raids you can do a day. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that to your own game? It is actually crazy how anti-player this is. The fact is remote raid passes saved that bloody game. You could only do raids in person before then. And then the pandemic happened, people couldn't go outside, and Niantic were like, right, remote raid passes, fantastic, there we go. And you were able to suddenly raid with your friends, you were able to raid any gym that you could see on your map, which was phenomenal. You could get access to your legendaries, you could do your normal raids, you could get your shiny chances for stuff, get high IV Pokemon. It was all kind of centered around PvP, but the important thing is that it allowed people to play. People were spending lots of money on these remote raid passes, fantastic business decision, raked in lots and lots of money. But here's the thing, they made the price of the bundles go up a little bit kind of after the pandemic finished. Then they started really making you push towards the in-person raids. That's what the elite raids are for. The fact is you can't do remote raids on them, so therefore if you are in an area, I don't know, like mine, where there's no people who are actively raiding and you have to drive 20 minutes minimum in order to get to the closest town where there's maybe a few people who do a legendary raid, but they won't do the elite raids, you're kind of shit out of luck, right? That's the long and short of that one. There's just a few things. People like to play the game in their own way, but they are pushing more towards playing outside, playing with your friends, meeting up with people, building a community. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of you are thinking, well, going outside and, you know, getting active and playing Pokemon, that sounds fantastic. And it sounds like my mission as well. I'm a personal trainer. I like people getting fit with video games. That's kind of what I do, right? Of course it is. That's not a problem. I actually align pretty well with Niantic's message of meet you out there. You know what I mean? I actually like the building of the community and stuff. But the fact is, that doesn't work for everyone. Owing to location, you know, you can't get out there and play all the time. Owing to weather, it can be dangerous to go outside in certain scenarios. The fact is that you've got disabled players, you've got people who aren't able to leave the house all the time, you've got people who work different shifts and aren't able to meet up with communities at certain times. People play the game in their own way, so making it more available to more people should be their mission, surely, because they will go outside when they can, but it's not accessible for everyone. That was why having the increased radius of Pokestops was such a good idea. Why having incense spawn when you were standing still was such a fantastic idea, because it helped more people access the game, and therefore those people spent more money. We're raking in more money. But then we got remote raiding. Remote raiding, as I said, saved the game in 2020 and 2021. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Limiting the amount of Pokemon raids, man, I just can't understand this, because you see, normally these decisions are based around their motto and like their mantra, which is meet you out there, right? Is going out and playing, right? That is why they have limited the incense effectiveness, you know, because you need to be walking around in order for it to be more effective. It's to do with getting outside. That is why they raised the prices of the remote raid passes, is so that it would incentivize using other raid passes so that you would be able to go outside and play. That's why they made the elite raids as well, is so that you could go outside and play, and you couldn't do it with remote raid passes. That is actively towards that mission. But limiting remote raiding is not only actively anti-player base, but it's actively anti-business, because as much as people will go outside, the option to be able to raid from wherever they are means that they will just spend more money if they are real whales for the game, if they are active shiny hunters for the legendaries, if they want perfect IV ones for PvP. You know, they will spend the money. People who feel that it is worth that time will spend the money on that. So limiting the amount that they can actually do is just so anti-consumer to, you know, with mobile gaming, I don't know if we've seen that South Park episode, but like the whole point with a mobile game is, you know, people aim towards the whales because that's where most of the money comes in, right? That's where they drag most of the money in. But this is really, really not that. Like, it is really against that. So not only is it, yeah, sure, it's for their mantra, but like this is anti-business as well. It just boggles my mind. I think that there's such a better way that they can do this, as I've said a few times. So let's actually get into that. And that is through player incentive, right? So rather than restricting from the way that you don't want people to play, because people are playing outside, people are playing indoors, right? Let's just kind of cut it to black and white. Rather than nerfing the indoors, rather than nerfing indoors and making it so that outside is more attractive that way, keep it at the same level as outdoors, but then when it comes to raids, give them those extra bonuses. Give them those extra bonuses. I think Hisuian Braviary Day was a really good example of this because there was more experience for doing an in-person raid, and you got a higher chance of getting a rare Candy XL, which is a premium item that you can't really get anywhere else very reliably. So, by incentivizing people to go out and play, that actually changed my day from going and playing in a local town to me spending an hour on the train to go into that city to go and play, right? So that was the best thing for me. Was because I was like, you know what, I'm going to pop a lucky egg, I'm going to go and raid a bunch, I'm going to get some really good experience for this, it's going to be really fantastic, hopefully I'll get a shiny. Luckily I got 2, but that's not the point. I actually felt incentivized to go out and play, and I ended up spending some money on raid passes that day. That is the way that they should be doing this. They should be saying, hey, you get extra items from Pokestops if you are walking as you move around, you get higher shiny chances if you're walking around with your incense on. You get, you know, something maybe not quite that, but you know what I mean? Like, take the premium items that have use and say, hey, if you use this is going to give you X bonus, Y bonus. You know, make an IV floor for the Pokemon that come out of those incenses if you're moving. Maybe make a, you know, like with raid bonuses, make it so that you get better items if you are in person than you are remote. Stuff like that is how you incentivize people to get outside. You give them incentive to go outside, and it's all about positive reinforcers versus negative reinforcement. The fact is that negative reinforcement, i.e. nerfing people who cannot get out and play or want to play a different way to what Niantic is saying, is not a great way of inspiring your player base to actually spend money on your game, and especially when you're not doing as well financially in comparison to where you were a couple of years ago. You should really be leaning into positive reinforcement. It's going to cost you nothing to add these sorts of like experience bonuses, or, you know, higher shiny chances for in-person raids, or, you know, better Pokemon from incense or stuff like that. It's not going to cost you anything, but it's going to say to people, hey, if you do this, you're going to get more. And people will be like, okay, cool, actually, I do want to spend a little bit of money on that. I do think that's in my budget. I think that will be worth my time. That creates value for me. Fantastic. That is how you incentivize your player base better, rather than saying, hey, you want to do in-person raids? Yeah, do in-person raids. If you do them remotely, you're only allowed to do like 3 a day or something like that. You know, like, here, you're not allowed to do that. We don't want you to do that because that is not how we want you to play the game. That is insanely arrogant of Niantic. I'm sorry, there's no other way of putting it. It's incredibly arrogant of Niantic to say that, you know, they don't want people to play the way that they don't want to. Because you have a really fun game here. That's the reason we're so passionate about it. It's the reason so many people are pissed off about this, is because we're saying, hey, we like playing this way, we can only play this way. There are certain things that we need in order to be able to play your game, but we are willing to do it. And you're saying, no, you need to walk around, you need to go outside, you need to play with friends, you need to meet community. A lot of people don't want to do that, or don't have access to that. And the fact is, saying to your player base, you're playing it wrong, don't do that, that's such a bad way of incentivizing them. And it's such a bad way to keep a player base going. It's almost like Niantic actually don't want to do this game anymore sometimes. Like, the amount of poor decisions that they make and anti-player decisions, it's so wild. I've never seen a game do this. I've never seen a company do this with their game. This video's gone on so long. I'm gonna start wrapping it up, I promise. The fact is, the too long didn't watch summary of this is that Niantic are making some terrible business decisions based around removing the way that people play the game and saying, hey, we want you to be outside, we want you to play this game this way and this way only, and if you have figured out another way of playing it, or you've got a way that works better for you, no, you're not allowed. We don't want you to do that. And that is anti-consumer, that is anti-business as well, because they are cutting off a lot of their whales with this one, especially remote raid passing. Limiting that is just so stupid. And it's all triggered. There's been a lot snowballing over the past year, and I kind of figured that maybe they were stopping, maybe they were realizing and listening to their player base, and were realizing that positive reinforcement actually works better than negative reinforcement, but apparently not. Apparently not. So we'll have to see how this goes. I really hope that they don't limit it, and I hope that they listen to people like myself, or the vocal majority on social media and stuff, who are saying, hey, this isn't really good enough, this is really worrying, we don't like this. Hopefully they'll listen, but Niantic are continually showing that they don't really care about the player experience. They only care about the way that they want in their own mission, which I personally believe to be incredibly arrogant, and I really hope they listen to the majority of the players, because this sucks. I hope you've all had a good day. Sorry, this is a bit of a podcast style one, a bit of a podcast style video. Very off the cuff as well. I'm trying to get better at talking in front of the camera without really having a script, just a different type of video. But look, if you're a Pokemon Go fan, hopefully you understand that this is not really good enough, and respectfully, and I say respectfully, we need to let Niantic know that if they put in a limit on remote raid passes, that is not acceptable. That really doesn't make any sense, and they need to remove it. And while we're at it, let's make incense effectiveness better, so that people who cannot leave the house properly or have limited mobility can play the game properly. Let's start getting Niantic to understand that lots of people like playing the game their own way, and that there is no one single way that we should be playing. People can play however they want. That's the way that a video game should be, is you should be able to play a game however you want, and that's that. That's what you need to be doing. That's what we need to be doing. That's how I hope people, how I hope Niantic, eventually take notice and say, hey, all right, cool, let's do this. Anyway, thank you so much for bearing with me. That was, I was expecting this to go on for like 5 minutes. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit longer than that. Anyway, have a good one. Thank you to my patrons like Rain, Sickaby, and Mikey Bananas for their fantastic support through Patreon. Really appreciate that. I'm Master Trainer Peter. Have yourselves a lovely day. I'll see you next time.